Imagine this. You are 22 years old. You are standing alone in the middle of a giant stone arena on a strange purple planet, millions of miles away from Earth. Thousands of alien warriors are screaming for your blood. 6 of the deadliest hunters in the entire galaxy are walking toward you with swords, spears, and glowing axes in their hands. You have no weapon. You have no armor. You have no friends. And in 200 years, not a single cadet has ever survived what is about to happen next. This is a true nightmare. And this is exactly where a young human named Jake Morgan found himself. A small town boy from Texas. A cadet nobody believed in. A human thrown into the jaws of death by his own alien instructor, who wanted him dead for one simple reason. He was human. And humans were supposed to be weak. Humans were supposed to be prey. Humans were supposed to die quietly. But the truth behind what happened next will shock you. Because Jake Morgan did not run. He did not beg. He did not fight. Instead, he did something so unexpected, so impossible, that it broke 200 years of galactic tradition in a single second. He did something that made the deadliest alien hunter in the universe remove her mask in front of thousands of witnesses. He did something that turned enemies into family, and killers into loyal friends. In this video, you will discover 3 shocking truths. The ancient alien gesture a human accidentally used to win a predator's heart. The secret reason the Crimson Pack broke their own sacred law. And the forbidden trial that nearly cost them everything. Let me show you exactly how this happened. The stars above planet Crinthar burned cold and silver, like 1,000 frozen eyes watching everything below. Deep in the black void of space, a small military transport ship cut through the darkness. Inside that ship sat a young human. His name was Jake Morgan. He was only 22 years old, and he had no idea that in less than 1 hour, he would be thrown into the jaws of death. Jake was a cadet from Earth. He came from a small town in Texas. He joined the Galactic Alliance military 2 years ago. He wanted to see the stars. He wanted to make his family proud. But mostly, he wanted to prove that humans belonged among the great species of the galaxy. Humans were new to the Alliance. Other alien races looked down on them. They called humans weak. They called humans soft. They called humans food. Jake gripped his seat tightly as the ship shook. Outside the window, he saw a massive green planet. It was covered in thick jungles and glowing purple rivers. This was Crinthar, the deadliest training world in the known galaxy. Only the strongest warriors were sent here. And now, a human was being sent too. Jake swallowed hard. His throat felt dry. He looked down at his hands. They were shaking. He tried to calm himself. He whispered the words his grandfather used to say back on Earth. Fear is just a shadow. Walk through it, and it disappears. But this time the shadow felt real. This time the shadow had teeth. The ship landed with a loud thump. The metal doors hissed open. A burst of hot, wet air rushed inside. Jake stood up slowly. He carried his small bag on his shoulder. He walked down the ramp. His boots touched the strange purple soil of Crinthar. And then he froze. Standing in front of him was a creature almost 9 feet tall. Its skin was dark blue, like the deep ocean. Its eyes glowed bright yellow. It had 4 long arms, each ending in sharp black claws. Its face looked like a mix between a lion and a snake. 2 long fangs hung from its mouth. And on its chest, a silver badge shined in the sunlight. That badge meant only one thing. This creature was an instructor. A Varathian instructor. The most feared trainers in the entire galaxy. The alien looked down at Jake. It tilted its head slowly. Then it smiled. But the smile was not friendly. It was the smile of a hunter who had just found its next meal. So, the creature said in a deep, rumbling voice, "The Alliance sent me a human. How amusing." Jake stood straight. He tried to look brave. "Cadet Jake Morgan, reporting for training, sir." The Varathian laughed. It was a terrible sound, like rocks breaking inside a cave. "Training? No, little human. You are not here for training. You are here for entertainment." Jake's heart began to pound. He did not understand. But something deep inside him knew. Something was very, very wrong. The instructor turned and began to walk. "Follow me, human, or die right here. Both options are acceptable to me." Jake followed. His legs felt heavy. Around him the jungle of Crinthar came alive. Strange birds screamed in the trees. Glowing insects floated in the air. Somewhere in the distance, a deep roar shook the ground. Jake had read about this planet in books. He knew the stories. He knew that many cadets who came here never came back. But he never believed it would happen to him. After walking for 20 minutes, they reached a giant stone arena. It was carved into the side of a mountain. Thousands of alien warriors sat in the stands. They were from every race in the galaxy. Reptilian Drakari with scales like armor. Tall, glowing Xerians with 6 eyes. Heavy, stone-skinned Grulloks. And many more. When they saw Jake, the entire arena went silent. Then slowly the laughter began. They were laughing at him. At the human. At the weak one. The Varathian instructor walked to the center of the arena. He raised one of his 4 hands. The crowd went quiet again. "Today," he shouted, "we welcome a new cadet. A human. From the soft little planet called Earth." The crowd laughed again. "And today this human will meet our most special training group, the Crimson Pack. The elite hunters of Crinthar." The crowd cheered loudly. Jake's blood turned to ice. He had heard about the Crimson Pack. Every cadet in the galaxy had. They were a group of 6 warriors. They were trained from birth to kill. They were the best hunters in the entire Alliance military. And they were known for one terrible thing. They never let a cadet survive their first meeting. Never. Not once in 200 years. A huge metal gate opened on the other side of the arena. Jake's eyes went wide. Out came 6 massive figures. They were tall. They were strong. Their bodies were covered in dark red armor. Their faces were hidden behind sharp metal masks. Each one carried a weapon, swords, spears, glowing axes. They moved like shadows. Silent. Deadly. Perfect. The leader walked in front. She was slightly smaller than the others. But somehow, she felt more dangerous. Her armor was black and silver. Her eyes glowed a bright emerald green through her mask. She tilted her head, just like the instructor had done. She was studying Jake, measuring him, deciding how to kill him. Jake's hands began to shake again. He looked at the instructor. "Sir, please, this is not fair. I have no weapon. I have no armor. I just arrived." The Varathian grinned. "Exactly, human. That is the point." Then the instructor turned and walked away. He left Jake alone in the center of the arena. Alone with the Crimson Pack. The crowd began to chant. "Kill! Kill! Kill!" Jake looked at the 6 hunters. His mind raced. He had 2 choices. He could run, or he could fight. But he knew both would end the same way. He would die. Right here, on this strange purple planet, far from Earth, far from home. But then, something strange happened, something no one in the arena expected. Not the crowd, not the instructor, not even the Crimson Pack themselves. Jake took a deep breath. He stood up straight. He looked directly at the leader of the hunters. And instead of running, instead of fighting, he smiled. A warm, human smile. The kind of smile you give to a friend. The leader of the Crimson Pack froze. Her emerald eyes narrowed behind her mask. She had killed hundreds of cadets. She had fought in dozens of wars. But in all her life, she had never seen this before. A prey that smiled at her. And in that single moment, everything was about to change. The arena went silent. Not a single sound. Not a whisper. Not even a breath. Thousands of alien warriors stared down at the young human boy standing in the middle of the dusty ground. And they could not believe what they were seeing. Jake Morgan was smiling. At the Crimson Pack. At the galaxy's deadliest hunters. The leader of the pack stood completely still. Her name was Zyra. She was the youngest leader in the history of the Crimson Pack, only 24 years old in human years. But she had already killed more enemies than most warriors killed in a lifetime. She was born on a planet called Nixara, a world covered in dark forests and glowing blue rivers. Her people, the Nixari, were one of the oldest warrior races in the galaxy. They were feared by everyone. And Zyravel was the best of them all. But right now she was confused. She had studied humans before. She had read the files. Humans were small. Humans were soft. Humans cried when they were hurt. Humans begged when they were afraid. Humans ran when they saw danger. But this human was smiling. Behind her mask, Zyravel's emerald green eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. Or maybe, something was very right. She did not know yet. She raised her hand slowly. The other 5 hunters behind her stopped moving. They had been ready to attack, but their leader had given them a silent order. Wait. Watch. Learn. The crowd in the stands began to grow angry. They wanted blood. They wanted to see the human torn apart. Some of them started booing. Others threw food down into the arena. A rotten purple fruit hit the ground near Jake's feet. But Jake did not move. He just kept smiling at Zyravel. His blue eyes looked straight into her emerald ones, and in that moment, something passed between them. Something no one in the arena could see. Something no one could understand. Jake was scared. His heart was beating like a drum. His legs felt weak. But deep inside, he remembered something his grandfather once told him back in Texas. Jake, my boy, when a wild animal wants to hurt you, don't show fear. Show respect. All living things understand respect. So Jake did something no cadet had ever done before on planet Krinthar. He slowly raised his empty hands. He showed his open palms to the hunters. Then he bowed his head. Just a little, not like a slave, not like a coward, but like a warrior showing respect to another warrior. It was a simple human gesture. But it meant everything. Zyravel's body stiffened. She had seen this before, long ago, when she was just a child on Nixara. Her grandmother had told her stories about the old days. Stories about when 2 warriors met as enemies, but chose to become friends. The old Nixari called this the bond of open hands. It was a sacred thing, forgotten by most, remembered only by the oldest and wisest. And now, a human, a tiny weak human from a backwater planet called Earth, was using this ancient gesture. How did he know? Did he know? Or was it just a coincidence? Zyravel took one slow step forward. The crowd went silent again. The Varathian instructor, who was watching from a high balcony, leaned forward. His yellow eyes glowed with interest. This was not part of his plan. He had expected blood. He had expected screams. He had expected a quick, entertaining death. But this was something else. Zyravel walked closer to Jake. Each step was slow and careful. Her armor clinked softly. Her long silver blade hung at her side. She stopped just 3 feet away from Jake. She was much taller than him, almost a full head taller. She looked down at him. And then, very slowly, she did something that shocked every single alien in the arena. She reached up and removed her mask. A gasp went through the crowd. The Crimson Pack never removed their masks in public. Never. It was a rule. It was tradition. Some said it was even a law. But Zyravel broke that rule right there, in front of everyone. Jake saw her face for the first time, and he was stunned. She was beautiful. Not in a scary way, not in a strange alien way, but in a way that made his heart skip a beat. Her skin was a soft violet blue, smooth like silk. Her long dark hair flowed down her shoulders like a waterfall of midnight. Her emerald green eyes were sharp, but they were also deep, full of something Jake could not name. Pain, maybe, or memory, or curiosity. She studied his face for a long moment. Then she spoke. Her voice was low and musical, almost like singing. Human, you are either the bravest fool I have ever met, or you are something I have never seen before. Which is it? Jake smiled again. A small, nervous smile. Maybe I am both, ma'am. For the first time in her life, Zyravel felt something strange inside her chest. A small laugh. She did not let it out. But it was there. This human had called her ma'am. Like she was a respected lady, not a monster, not a killer, just a person. The Varathian instructor could not take it anymore. He stood up in his balcony and roared, "Enough. Zyravel. Finish him now. That is an order." Zyravel's eyes flashed. She turned her head slightly toward the balcony. Her face became cold. Her voice became dangerous. "I take orders from the Pack Council instructor, not from a second-rank Varathian." The instructor's jaw dropped. The crowd gasped again. No one spoke to a Varathian instructor like that. No one. But Zyravel had just done it. In front of thousands of witnesses. She turned back to Jake. She looked at him for another long moment. Then, she made a decision that would change the history of the galaxy forever. "Human," she said. "What is your name?" "Jake." "Jake Morgan. From Earth." "Jake Morgan from Earth," she repeated slowly, as if testing the words, as if tasting them. Then she nodded once. "Today you will not die. Today you will come with us." The 5 hunters behind her shifted. They were surprised. But they did not speak. They trusted their leader. They had followed her into 100 battles. They would follow her now. Zyravel turned and began to walk toward the far gate of the arena. She spoke without looking back. "Walk behind me, Jake Morgan. Stay close. If you fall behind, I cannot protect you from what waits outside." Jake's heart pounded. He did not understand what was happening. But he understood one thing. He was still alive. And for now, that was enough. He followed her. The 5 silent hunters walked behind him. Together, they left the arena. The crowd watched in stunned silence. The Varathian instructor watched too. But his silence was different. His silence was full of rage. And a promise. Jake Morgan had just made his first friend on Krinther, and his first, most dangerous enemy. The gate behind them closed with a loud metal crash. Jake Morgan walked in silence, following Zyravel and her 5 silent hunters. The noise of the arena faded behind them. Now, all Jake could hear was the soft crunch of their boots on the strange purple soil and the distant cry of jungle creatures somewhere deep in the glowing trees. They walked for almost an hour. No one spoke. Jake tried to keep up, but his legs were tired. His body was still shaking from what had just happened. He was alive. He could not believe it. Just 30 minutes ago, he had been sure he was going to die. Now he was walking next to the most feared hunters in the galaxy. And somehow, they were protecting him. As they moved deeper into the jungle, Jake noticed that the world around him was beautiful. Tall purple trees stretched up into a dark orange sky. Glowing blue flowers hung from thick vines. Small animals with 4 wings and silver fur flew past his head, making soft musical sounds. It was strange. It was alien, but it was also magical. Jake had never seen anything like it on Earth. Zyravel walked in front, her black and silver armor glowing softly in the light of the twin moons that were now rising in the sky. She did not look back. She did not speak. But Jake could tell she was listening to everything. The wind, the trees, the breathing of her hunters, and the breathing of the strange human boy behind her. After another 10 minutes of walking, they came to a large clearing, and Jake's eyes went wide. Hidden between 2 massive rocks was a huge camp. Tall stone walls rose from the ground. Wooden towers stood in the corners. Glowing blue fires burned in circles around the camp. And many more warriors moved about, doing training exercises, cleaning weapons, or cooking food over the flames. There must have been at least 50 hunters here, maybe more. This was the secret home of the Crimson Pack. The hunters at the gate saw Zyravel coming. They snapped to attention. Their leader had returned. But then their yellow and red eyes saw Jake, and they froze. A human, in their camp, walking freely, not in chains, not bleeding, not dying. This was impossible. One of the guards stepped forward. He was a big warrior, huge muscles, scales like armor covering his green skin. His name was Thoric, a Drakari hunter from a volcanic planet. He raised his spear. Ziravel, why is a human inside our camp? Explain yourself, leader. Ziravel stopped walking. She turned to face Thoric. Her voice was calm but cold. This human is under my protection. He is my guest. And he is not to be harmed. That is my word as leader of the Crimson Pack. Thoric did not lower his spear. Leader, this goes against everything we stand for. Humans are prey. They are soft. They are weak. The council will not allow this. Ziravel took one step closer to Thoric. Her emerald eyes began to glow brighter. The air around her felt heavy. Jake could feel it. Power. Real power. The kind you only feel from someone who has killed many, many times. Thoric, she said softly. Are you challenging my command? Thoric's scales rippled. He looked at her. Then he looked at the other hunters around the camp, who were now all watching. He was strong. He was brave. But he was not stupid. He slowly lowered his spear and stepped back. No, leader. I was only asking a question. Good, Ziravel said. Then you have your answer. She turned and began walking again. Jake Morgan, follow me. Jake hurried after her. He could feel the eyes of 50 alien warriors on his back. Some were angry. Some were curious. Some looked at him like he was a piece of meat. But Jake kept his head up. He remembered his grandfather's words again. Show respect, not fear. They walked to the center of the camp. Ziravel led him to a large tent made of dark leather and glowing crystals. She opened the flap and motioned for him to enter. Jake stepped inside. The tent was warm. It smelled like strange herbs and spices. In the middle of the floor, a small blue fire burned without any wood. It floated in the air, glowing with magic. There were furs on the ground for sitting, weapons on the walls, and maps carved into thin sheets of metal. Ziravel pointed to the furs. Sit. Jake sat. She sat across from him. The blue fire floated between them, casting soft light on her beautiful face. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ziravel broke the silence. Tell me, Jake Morgan, how did a human learn the bond of open hands? Jake blinked. What? The gesture you made in the arena. Raising your empty palms. Bowing your head just slightly. That is an ancient greeting from my world. Only the oldest Nixari remember it. How did you know? Jake scratched his head, confused. I didn't know. My grandfather used to tell me, when an animal is scared, show it you are not a threat, show respect. That's all I did. Ziravel stared at him for a long time. Then, slowly, she smiled. A real smile. The first one she had given anyone in many years. Your grandfather, she said quietly, was a wise man. He was, Jake said. His voice got soft. He died last year. Heart attack, back on Earth. Ziravel nodded slowly. She understood loss. She had lost many people too. In her world, death came often. Sometimes in battle. Sometimes in betrayal. She looked at the young human across from her. And she saw something familiar. A warrior who had already lost. A warrior who had already grieved. A warrior who carried his dead with him. Jake Morgan, she said. You are not what I expected. Neither are you, Jake replied quietly. I was told the Crimson Pack were monsters. But you are something else. Ziravel's green eyes flickered. And what am I then? Jake thought for a moment. You are a leader, a real one. The kind who protects her people. The kind who does what is right, even when it is hard. Silence filled the tent. The blue fire danced softly. Outside, the sounds of the jungle whispered in the wind. Ziravel studied the human one more time, and then she made a second decision. A decision even bigger than the first. Jake Morgan, she said, the Varathian instructor will come for you. He will not let this go. He has already sent a message to the High Council. They will demand your death. Or worse, they will demand my death for protecting you. Jake felt his stomach twist. Then what do we do? Zyravel leaned forward. Her emerald eyes glowed in the firelight. We fight. Together. And we win. The next morning came quietly. Twin suns rose over the purple jungle, turning the sky into a soft mix of gold and pink. The Crimson Pack camp was already awake. Warriors sharpened their weapons. Others practiced fighting in open circles of dirt. Smoke from breakfast fires rose into the sky, but inside one tent, everything was still. Jake Morgan opened his eyes slowly. For a moment he did not know where he was. Then he remembered everything. The arena, the smile, Zyravel, the long walk through the jungle, the secret camp. The warning. He sat up on the soft furs and rubbed his face with both hands. His body ached, but his mind was sharp. He had survived the night, and that itself felt like a small miracle. He stepped out of the tent. The cold morning air touched his skin. He saw Zyravel standing near the blue fire in the center of the camp. She was already dressed in her full black and silver armor. Her long dark hair was tied back now, and her emerald eyes looked tired, like she had not slept at all. She was talking quietly with two of her hunters. When she saw Jake, she waved him over. Jake walked to her. The other hunters gave him careful looks but did not speak. He noticed that at least some of them did not hate him anymore. They just watched, curious, waiting to see what kind of creature this strange human really was. Jake Morgan, Zyravel said softly. Walk with me. They left the camp together and walked to a cliff that looked down over a huge glowing river. The water below shined like liquid silver. Strange fish jumped in and out of the waves, leaving small trails of light. Zyravel stood at the edge, her arms folded. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she spoke. The message arrived this morning. From the High Council. Jake felt his throat tighten. What did they say? They have ordered a trial. In 3 days you and I must stand before them. They will decide if you live, and if I am still the leader of the Crimson Pack. Jake's stomach dropped. But you didn't do anything wrong. You saved me. In their eyes, Zyravel said, that is the crime. The pack has never spared a cadet. Not in 200 years. I have broken a sacred tradition. The Varathian instructor Grolvok has already spoken against me. He says I am weak. He says a human has confused my mind. He wants me replaced. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. So this is all because of him? Zyravel nodded slowly. Grolvok is old and powerful. He has many allies in the council. But he also has enemies. And that is our hope. Jake frowned. What do you mean? Zyravel turned to face him. Her emerald eyes were sharp now, focused. There is an old law among the Nixari people, a law older than the pack itself. It is called the Trial of Three Voices. If a warrior is accused of breaking tradition, they may ask 3 others to speak for them. 3 voices from 3 different worlds. 3 voices that the council cannot ignore. Jake thought about this. So we need 3 people to defend us? Not just anyone. Zyravel said. 3 warriors of honor. 3 voices from 3 different alien races. Voices strong enough to change the minds of the council. Jake felt his chest tighten. And, do we have them? Zyravel looked at the glowing river. 1 maybe. An old friend from the Drakari Empire. She owes me a life debt. She will come if I call her. And the other 2? Zyravel was silent for a long time. Then she finally said, that, Jake Morgan, is the hard part. Before Jake could ask more, a sharp horn sound cut through the morning air. 3 long blasts. Loud. Urgent. Both of them turned at once. Zyravel's face went cold. She began walking back to the camp quickly. Jake, stay close. Do not leave my side. They ran back to the camp. The warriors were all standing now, weapons ready. At the main gate, 4 strange figures had arrived. They were tall and covered in gold and black armor. Their faces were hidden behind crystal masks. Their cloaks flowed like smoke. Jake had never seen beings like these before. but he could feel the power coming off them. It made his skin crawl. Zyravel stopped in front of them. Her voice was flat. "Emissaries of the High Council. You come earlier than expected." The tallest one stepped forward. His voice was cold and hollow, like wind inside a cave. "Zyravel of the Crimson Pack. The Council has decided the trial will not wait 3 days. It will happen tomorrow. At dawn. On the island of Kael'thor." The warriors around the camp murmured. Jake saw some of them go pale. Even Thoric, the big Drakari hunter, looked shaken. Zyravel's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed calm. "Tomorrow is too soon. I have not gathered my voices." "That is no longer your concern," the emissary said. "The Varathian has requested a combat trial instead. A fight to the death. You and the human, against 3 chosen champions of his choice. If you win, you are free. If you lose, you both die." The camp went silent. A combat trial. Jake had heard whispers of this back on Earth in the Alliance training schools. It was the oldest and most brutal form of judgment in the galaxy. Almost no one survived it. Zyravel's hands slowly closed into fists, but her face did not change. "I accept," she said. "On one condition." "Name it." "The human chooses his own weapon, and he trains with us tonight. No interference." The emissary paused. Then he nodded once. "Agreed. At dawn on Kael'thor. Be ready, Nixari." The 4 emissaries turned and vanished into thin air, leaving only small trails of golden dust floating in the breeze. Zyravel turned to Jake. Her emerald eyes were burning now. "Jake Morgan, listen to me. You have 1 night. 1 night to learn how to survive a fight that most warriors spend their whole life preparing for. Do you understand me?" Jake's heart was pounding. But deep inside, something strange happened. Instead of fear, he felt determination. He looked up at Zyravel. He remembered his grandfather. He remembered Earth. He remembered all the people who said humans were weak. And he made a decision. "I understand," he said. "Teach me. I will not fail you." Zyravel stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, a small smile touched her lips. "Good. Come, human. Tonight, I will show you how the Crimson Pack fights. Tonight, you will learn what it means to be Nixari." She turned and walked toward the training grounds. Jake followed. Behind them, the warriors of the camp watched silently. Something was changing here. Something none of them had ever seen before. A human was about to be trained by the deadliest hunters in the galaxy. And tomorrow, he would fight for his life. The storm was coming. And Jake Morgan was ready to walk into it. The training lasted all night. Jake Morgan did not sleep. Not even for 1 minute. Under the twin moons of Crinthar, Zyravel taught him things no human had ever learned before. She showed him how the Nixari fight. How to move like water. How to strike like lightning. How to breathe slowly even when death was 1 inch away from his face. She gave him a weapon too. It was not a sword. It was not a gun. It was a short silver blade, shaped like a curved claw. Zyravel called it a verndal. It was her own backup weapon. It had been in her family for over 200 years. She placed it in his hands and looked at him seriously. "This blade has tasted the blood of 12 warriors," she said. "It will not fail you, but you must not fail it. Do you understand, Jake Morgan?" Jake gripped the handle tightly. The metal felt warm, almost alive. "I understand." Thoric, the huge Drakari hunter, also came to help. At first, Jake thought Thoric still hated him. But something had changed. Maybe it was the way Jake had spoken to Zyravel. Maybe it was the way he bowed his head last night when passing the warriors. Or maybe it was just respect slowly growing. Whatever it was, Thoric now taught Jake how to block heavy attacks. How to use his small size as an advantage. How to turn fear into speed. By the time the twin suns began to rise, Jake was exhausted. His muscles burned. His hands were bleeding. But his eyes were sharp. His heart was steady. He was ready. A small ship landed at the edge of the camp. It was sent by the High Council. It would take them to the island of Caelthor, the place where the combat trial would happen. Zyravel stood beside Jake as they walked toward the ship. She was dressed in full battle armor now. Her emerald eyes glowed with cold fire. Behind her, the Crimson Pack stood in silence. They bowed their heads as she passed. All of them. Even Thoric. It was a sign of deep respect. A warrior going to die with honor deserved it. Jake looked at them. He saw their yellow, red, and silver eyes watching him, and something inside him changed. These warriors were no longer strangers. They were no longer enemies. In just one day and one night, they had become something else. Something almost like family. He climbed into the ship. Zyravel sat beside him. The doors closed. The ship lifted off, rising high into the pink and gold morning sky. Jake looked out the window. Down below, he saw the purple jungle grow smaller and smaller. Then the jungle was gone. And all he could see was a huge blue ocean. Endless. Deep. Ancient. After almost 1 hour of flight, a small island appeared on the horizon. The island of Caelthor. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The island was shaped like a giant claw. Black rocks rose from the water like sharp teeth. In the center was a huge stone arena, far bigger than the one Jake had seen the day before. And around the arena, thousands of alien warriors had already gathered. Tens of thousands, maybe, from every world in the galaxy. The High Council had made sure everyone could see this fight. They wanted the galaxy to watch. They wanted to send a message. Humans were not welcome. Rebels would be crushed. The ship landed. The doors opened. Jake and Zyravel stepped out together. A loud roar went through the crowd. Some cheered, some booed, some chanted for blood. Jake walked slowly. His legs felt heavy, but his mind was clear. He looked at Zyravel. She did not look at him. Her eyes were already locked on the arena, but her hand gently brushed against his. Just for 1 second. A small touch. But it meant everything. It said, "I am with you." Until the end. They walked into the arena. The air was thick with heat and tension. Above them, on a massive stone platform, sat the members of the High Council. 9 beings from 9 different worlds, all wearing heavy golden robes, all watching with cold ancient eyes, and standing next to them was Grolvok, the Varathian instructor. His yellow eyes gleamed with hatred when he saw Jake. His 4 arms were folded across his huge chest. He looked like a monster who had already won. One of the council members stood up. Her voice boomed across the arena with strange magic. Today, we witness a combat trial. Zyravel of the Crimson Pack, and the human called Jake Morgan, accused of breaking the sacred tradition of the hunt. Their lives are now in the hands of battle. The crowd roared. They will face 3 champions chosen by the honored instructor Grolvok. 3 massive doors opened on the far side of the arena, and Jake's blood ran cold. The first champion walked out. He was a giant, maybe 10 feet tall. His body was made of dark stone. His eyes glowed orange. He carried a huge hammer that could crush a small ship. His name was Korgoth, a Grulic warrior, one of the strongest species in the galaxy. The second champion followed. She was tall and thin. Her skin was pale white. Her 6 eyes all glowed different colors. 2 long silver whips hung from her hands. She moved like a dancer. Silent, graceful, deadly. She was a Xerian assassin. Her name was Viella. The third champion came last, and when Jake saw him, his heart stopped. It was a human being. Tall, strong, maybe 35 years old. Short black hair, cold blue eyes. He wore dark armor with the symbol of Earth on his chest. But his face was hard, cruel, twisted. This was not a friend. This was a traitor. A human who had sold his soul to the Varathian instructor for power and wealth. Zyravel turned to Jake. "Do you know him?" Jake shook his head slowly. "No. But his uniform, he was Alliance military. He must have been once. Now he works for them." The traitor smiled at Jake from across the arena. "So, little cadet, Come to die with the alien girl? How very romantic. Jake clenched his fists. His grandfather used to say that a man who betrays his own people is the lowest kind of evil. Jake had never understood those words before. But now, looking at this traitor, he finally did. The council member raised her hand. Begin the trial. A huge gong sound rang across the arena. The three champions began to walk forward. Slow, confident, sure of victory. Zyravel drew her long silver blade. Jake drew his Verndl. They stood back to back, just like they had stood in the arena the day before. But now, everything was different. Now, they were not strangers. Now they were warriors. Together. Zyravel whispered softly. Jake Morgan, if we die today, I am glad I met you. Jake smiled. A small, brave human smile. Then let's not die today. And the three champions charged. The three champions charged like a storm. Korgath the stone giant ran first, his massive hammer raised high above his head. Vela the Zyrian assassin moved beside him, her silver whips cracking through the air like lightning. And the human traitor ran last, his cold blue eyes locked on Jake Morgan. Zyravel moved first. She shot forward like a shadow. Her black and silver armor caught the sunlight as she leaped high into the air. Her long silver blade came down on Korgath with a loud crash. Sparks flew. The stone giant stumbled back. The crowd gasped. Then Zyravel twisted in midair and landed behind Viela. Her emerald eyes glowed. The real fight had begun. Jake did not freeze. He remembered everything Zyravel had taught him during the long night. Move like water. Strike like lightning. Breathe even when death is 1 inch away. He rolled to the side just as the human traitor's blade came down where his head had been a second before. Jake came up fast. His small silver Verndl flashed in his hand. The traitor laughed. Not bad, Cadet. But you are still just a boy. Maybe, Jake said. But today a boy is enough. Their blades clashed. Again and again. Jake was smaller, weaker, slower, but he was smarter. The traitor swung hard, trying to kill him in one hit. Jake used every trick he had learned. He ducked under the swings. He let the traitor tire himself out. He waited for the right moment, just like Thorik had taught him. On the other side of the arena, Zyravel danced between Korgath and Viela like a deadly spirit. Her blade cut through Viela's silver whips one by one. The assassin screamed in rage. But Zyravel was too fast, too skilled. Then she jumped onto Korgath's massive shoulders, drove her blade deep into the back of his neck, and leaped off as the stone giant fell. The ground shook when his huge body hit the dirt. The crowd went silent. One champion down. Viela let out a terrible cry and threw herself at Zyravel, her 6 eyes glowing with fury. Their fight became a blur of movement. Zyravel's blade, Viela's remaining whip, silver against silver, death against death. Jake kept fighting the traitor. Blood ran down his arm from a small cut, but he did not stop. He remembered his grandfather's voice. Fear is just a shadow. Walk through it, and it disappears. Jake walked through the shadow. He walked straight into the fear, and something inside him came alive. Something strong. Something the Alliance had never seen in a human before. The traitor swung his blade one more time. But this time, Jake did not dodge. He stepped forward, into the attack, into the danger. He caught the traitor's arm with his left hand, and he drove the Verndl up under the traitor's ribs with his right. The traitor's eyes went wide. His blade fell from his hand. He looked at Jake with shock, and then with something almost like respect. You are not what I expected, the traitor whispered. I know, Jake said quietly. Nobody expects a human. The traitor fell. The crowd gasped. Jake stood alone in the middle of the arena, covered in dust and blood, holding the silver blade in his shaking hand. 2 champions down. He turned quickly. Zyravel was still fighting Viela. The assassin was wounded but fast. She was circling Zyravel, looking for a chance to strike. And Jake saw it before Zyravel did. Viela was about to throw a hidden poison dart from her sleeve. A killing move. Jake did not think. He ran. He threw his verndl across the arena with all his strength. The blade spun through the air. It hit Viola's hand just as she was about to throw the dart. The assassin screamed. Ziravel did not miss the chance. Her long silver blade flashed one final time, and Viola fell. 3 champions down. The arena went completely silent. Ziravel stood in the middle of the dust. Her chest rose and fell. Her emerald eyes found Jake across the arena. Slowly she walked to him. The crowd did not cheer. The crowd did not boo. The crowd just watched in shock. A Nixari warrior and a human boy, standing together, alive, victorious. Up on the stone platform the High Council stood frozen. They had never seen this. A human surviving the combat trial. Impossible. Unthinkable. The lead counselor opened her mouth to speak. But before she could, Grolvok the Varathian exploded in rage. He jumped down from the platform with a terrible roar, his forearms raised, long black claws out, ready to kill Jake with his own hands. But he never reached him. Because at that moment, something wonderful happened. A sound came from the gates of the arena. A deep, pounding, marching sound. Everyone turned. And Jake's eyes filled with tears. 50 hunters of the Crimson Pack had come. They marched into the arena in full armor, Thoric at the front. Behind them, hundreds of other warriors from dozens of worlds. Drakari, Zirian rebels, Grulix who had no love for the council. And more kept coming. Thousands of warriors. All of them standing with Ziravel, all of them standing with Jake. The message was clear. Touch them, and you fight us all. Grolvok froze. His yellow eyes looked around. For the first time in his long, cruel life, he understood something. He had lost. The council had lost. The old ways were breaking. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The lead counselor slowly sat back down. Her voice was quiet now. The trial is over. The accused are free. The combat trial has given its answer. Ziravel walked to Jake. She placed her hand gently on his shoulder. Her emerald eyes shined with something new. Pride. And maybe something warmer too. Jake Morgan from Earth, she said softly. Today, you did not just save yourself. You did not just save me. You changed the galaxy forever. Jake looked at her. His voice was tired but steady. We did it together. She smiled. A real smile. A smile only for him. The crowd finally began to cheer. But slowly. Then louder. Then like thunder. A human and a Nixari. A cadet and a hunter. 2 people who should have been enemies. 2 people who had become something much greater. Months later, the story of Jake Morgan and Ziravel spread to every corner of the galaxy. They became legends. Together they led the Crimson Pack into a new age. An age where honor mattered more than tradition. An age where a human and an alien could stand side by side. And somewhere far away, on a small planet called Earth, an old man's words finally came true. Fear is just a shadow. Walk through it, and you will find your true family waiting on the other side. Jake had walked through the shadow, and he had found them all. But the story of Jake Morgan and Ziravel does not end in that dusty arena on the island of Kael'thor, because months after the trial, something was discovered that shook the galaxy even harder than the battle itself. Something the High Council had tried to bury for 200 long years. When Jake returned to the Crimson Pack camp as an honored warrior, Ziravel took him deep into the hidden caves beneath her ancestors' temple. There, carved into an ancient wall of glowing blue stone, Jake saw something that made his knees go weak. A prophecy, written in the old Nixari language, written over 1,000 years before Jake was even born. The prophecy spoke of a day when a small being from a blue and green world would arrive on Crinthar. A being with no claws, no fangs, no armor. A being who would carry only one weapon, an open hand. And on that day, the prophecy said, the old empire of fear would fall, and a new age of brotherhood between species would begin. Jake stared at the carving for a long time. He did not speak. He could not speak, because in the middle of the stone wall, drawn in glowing silver lines, was a symbol he knew very well. A symbol his grandfather had worn on a small silver ring his whole life. A symbol Jake had touched as a child and never understood. The symbol of an open human hand, exactly like the one he had raised in that arena without knowing why. Zyravell turned to him slowly. Her emerald eyes shined with tears. "Jake Morgan," she whispered. "You were not sent here by accident. You were always meant to come." And in that moment, Jake finally understood. His grandfather had not simply told him wise words. His grandfather had passed down a destiny older than Earth, a destiny older than the stars themselves. Fear is just a shadow. Walk through it, and you will find your true family waiting on the other side. Jake had walked through the shadow, and the whole galaxy had been waiting for him all along. If this opened your eyes, then you are ready for the next chapter. The story of what happened when Jake Morgan and Zyravell discovered that the prophecy had one more line. A line the Council had hidden. A line that would lead them into the most dangerous mission of their lives. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. And that is how one young human cadet from a small town in Texas walked into the jaws of death and walked out as a legend of the galaxy. Jake Morgan did not win because he was the strongest. He did not win because he had the best weapons. He did not win because he was born special. He won because he chose respect over fear. He chose friendship over hate. He chose to see a person where everyone else saw a monster. And in doing so, he changed the fate of an entire galaxy. Think about that for just a moment. One simple smile, one small act of courage, one ancient gesture passed down from a wise grandfather in Texas. That was all it took to turn the deadliest hunters in the universe into loyal friends. That was all it took to break 200 years of cruel tradition. That was all it took to prove that humanity, small and soft as it may seem, carries something no other species in the galaxy truly understands. The power of the open heart, the power of kindness in the face of death, the power to walk through fear and come out the other side as something greater. Zyravell of the Nixari learned that day that humans are not weak. They are not prey. They are not food. They are something far more dangerous and far more beautiful. They are the species that forgives, the species that bonds, the species that chooses family even among enemies. And once a human calls you family, nothing in this universe can break that bond. Not armies, not councils, not even death itself. So here is the question I want to leave you with tonight. If you were Jake Morgan, standing in that arena, surrounded by warriors ready to kill you, would you have smiled? Would you have raised your open hands? Would you have chosen respect over panic? Or would you have run? Drop your honest answer down in the comments below. I read every single one. I want to know what you would have done. Because the truth is, we all face our own Krinthar in life. Maybe not with aliens, maybe not with silver blades, but with bosses, bullies, broken hearts, and impossible situations. And the choice is always the same: fear or courage, hate or understanding. If this story moved you even a little bit, please do me a small favor right now. Tap that like button. It helps this channel grow and brings these kinds of stories to more people around the world. And if you are new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Because every single week, I release brand new hi-fi sci-fi stories just like this one. Tales of humans who refused to give up. Tales of aliens who became allies. Tales of friendship and courage across the stars. And if you love Jake and Zyravell, you will absolutely love the next story coming up on this channel. It is about a lone human pilot who crashes on a planet ruled by ancient dragon aliens. What he discovers in their hidden temple will shake the foundations of the entire galaxy. You do not want to miss it. Click the video popping up on your screen right now, and let us continue this journey together. Until next time, my friends, remember this: fear is just a shadow. Walk through it, and you will find your true family waiting on the other side. This is your story. This is your universe. Keep dreaming. Keep watching. and I will see you in the next one.